All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a deep dive into operations management, or OM. I want you to think of it as the powerful, indispensable engine humming away at the heart of any organization. It's the function that takes ideas and raw materials and actually turns them into the goods and services that customers pay for. This is where the rubber meets the road.
And this quote right here, it just nails why this is so important. You know, the decisions made in operations, they directly determine your costs. They define the quality of your product, and ultimately, they decide if your business is going to be profitable in the long run. You can have the most clever marketing on the planet, but if you can't deliver on the promise, it's all just smoke and mirrors.
So, what's our game plan for this explainer? Pretty simple, really. We've got three main goals. First, we're going to define what operations management really is and how it creates value. Second, we'll look at the core building blocks, the inputs that every operation uses. And finally, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what an operations manager actually does day to day, especially in the world we live in now.
Okay, let's jump into that first objective. At its core, operations management is all about designing, controlling, and constantly improving the processes that a company uses to create, well, everything. It's kind of like being the lead architect who designs the factory and the orchestra conductor who makes sure all the instruments are playing in perfect harmony, all rolled into one. Here's the textbook definition, and if there's one word you need to remember here, it's transformation. Operations is the magic that happens in the middle. It takes all of a company's resources, we call those inputs, and it systematically transforms them into the outputs, the final products and services that customers actually want and are willing to pay for. It's that entire journey from A to Z. So how exactly does this transformation create value? Well, it attacks the problem from two different angles. On one hand, you've got the internal focus, efficiency. This is all about hunting down and eliminating waste, wasted time, wasted materials, you name it. When you do that, the cost of making each item goes down and your profit margins go up. Simple as that. On the other hand, there's the external focus, quality. By designing better processes, you can create a superior product, which means you can charge a higher price for it, driving up your revenue. It's a really powerful one-two punch for any business.
Okay, so we know what it is, but how does this transformation actually work? Where does it all start? Well, it all begins with the inputs. You could say that an operations manager's entire career is spent juggling four fundamental resources, what economists call the four factors of production. And here they are, the big four: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. These are the absolute classic building blocks of pretty much any business you can think of. And the job of OM is to get these ingredients and use them in the smartest, most effective way possible. So let's peel back the layers on each of these, one by one.
So first up, we've got land. And look, in today's world, this is so much more than just a piece of dirt. It's a huge strategic decision. Do you build your factory close to your suppliers to keep shipping costs down? Or do you set up your distribution center closer to your customers for next-day delivery? It's a massive trade-off involving rent, taxes, logistics, and even geopolitical risk. It's a really complex puzzle.
All right, next up is labor. You know, the people, the human element. An OM manager's job here is to figure out how to best use their team's skills. They're constantly trying to strike the right balance. Do you need a few really expensive specialists or a larger team of more flexible generalists? And then there's the whole question of outsourcing. It might cut costs, sure, but it can also create major headaches with quality control and communication. And this right here, this is a fantastic way to see that classic trade-off between capital and labor in action. If you have a capital-intensive business, like a bottling plant, you're dominated by machinery. You can produce a ton of stuff, but you're not very flexible. I mean, think about it. If demand suddenly tanks, you're left with this giant, expensive machine just sitting there, collecting dust. Now, a labor-intensive business, like a consulting firm, is the opposite. It's more flexible, you can hire more people, but your costs are almost all variable salaries. This single choice pretty much defines a company's entire cost structure.
And last but absolutely not least, we have enterprise. This is that intangible factor, the secret sauce, really. It's all about human ingenuity and innovation. See, it's not enough to just hire smart, creative people. The operation itself has to have systems in place to actually capture their ideas, test them out, and then roll them out to make things better. Without this, even the most efficient operation will eventually just stagnate.
Now, this is super important to get. A lot of people hear operations and they immediately think of factories, right? Assembly lines, hard hats, that kind of thing. But these principles we're talking about, they apply literally everywhere, in every single sector of the economy.
And this table just lays it all out perfectly. Look how that same input-process-output model works no matter what you're doing. For a fishing company, the inputs are the boat and the crew. The process is catching fish, and the output is, well, fish. For a car company, it's turning components into a finished vehicle. For a restaurant, it's turning fresh ingredients into a great meal and a wonderful experience. Even for a consulting firm, they're taking data and expertise, processing it through analysis, and creating a strategic report. See, the details change, but the fundamental challenge, turning inputs into valuable outputs, it's the same game no matter the industry.
Okay, so we've got the what and the where down. Now let's get into the who. What does an operations manager actually do all day? Their incredibly important job can be broken down into 7 core responsibilities that are all tightly linked together.
It really boils down to these 7 key tasks. And you've got to remember, these are all connected, like gears in a machine. If one part breaks or isn't working right, the whole system can start to wobble and cause problems everywhere else.
All right, here's the playbook. It all kicks off with number 1, designing and improving the actual processes. This is the blueprint. From there, they have to plan capacity, manage stock, and oversee the entire supply chain. Then you've got quality control, making sure the product is perfect. And it doesn't stop there. Great operations have a culture of Kaizen. That's Japanese for continuous incremental improvement. And all of this is happening while they're juggling the daily grind of scheduling and logistics. It's a lot.
Okay, let's zoom in on one of those key ideas, just in time, or JIT. The benefit is huge. By having parts show up exactly when you need them, you basically eliminate the cost of storing inventory. But the risk? It's just as massive. JIT is like walking a tightrope. A single truck getting stuck in traffic can bring your entire production line to a grinding halt because you have zero backup. It's the ultimate high-risk, high-reward operational strategy.
But in the 21st century, it's not just about being fast and cheap anymore. There's this whole other massive layer of complexity. There's a new mandate for modern operations, and it's non-negotiable. They have to be sustainable, and they have to be ethical. And this new mandate really rests on a few key pillars. We're talking about managing a green supply chain, choosing suppliers who care about the planet. It means designing for energy efficiency and fighting waste. Think about a company like Fairphone. They design their phones to be easily repaired, which is a direct operational choice to fight e-waste. And of course, it means ensuring fair labor practices across your entire supply chain.
So, at the end of the day, what does this all mean? It means the modern operations manager is in the middle of this incredibly tough balancing act. They still have to chase that traditional goal of reducing costs. But now, they have to weigh every single decision against this new, critical mandate for being environmentally and socially responsible. That is the central challenge for OM today.
So let's bring it all home. What's the big takeaway here? It's really simple. Operations management is not some boring background function. It is the absolute bedrock of business success. By mastering process design, quality, the supply chain, all of it, operations managers are the people who are literally shaping a company's costs, its quality, and its ability to survive and thrive in the long run.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on for the future. We've talked about OM being a constant balancing act. Well, as AI and automation start to supercharge that capital factor we talked about, what happens to that balancing act? Is the big challenge for managers no longer about people versus machines, but instead about managing the insane amount of data needed to run those systems? And even more importantly, ensuring those powerful systems are designed and used ethically? That, right there, might be the defining question for the next generation of business leaders.